I never instigate fun, just like
maybe-
out of the blue.
maybe we should switch.
Wouldn't that be fun? Who could
Well,
we
you
get
have an
to do
opportunity in next year.
Not me, I
Do
should
the-
We
sing.
would scatter them in.
Do the musical chairs.
Oh, no, you've never heard me sing.
I was gonna say, I
I can
can't
see
sing.
you practicing late at night, like
He
5,
looks some
6,
stats.
7.
Christ.
Over there. There's too
Oh, I
much
changed
fun.
purses.
No, it's my
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 27 February 2020 meeting of the Sierra Council. I would point out to the council folks that we are having some problems with the voice on the recordings. So please speak into the microphones tonight. Make a good point of doing that. And until that's rectified, we also have a recorder up here to back up the clerk so she can decipher and provide the minutes. That's what's happening. It's coming in very broken on the recording. So remember to help the clerk out and make sure we get a good call, please.
Mayor Rick Mueller,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rachel Gray,
Present.
Councilmember William Benning,
Present.
Councilmember Gwen Calhoun,
Present.
Councilmember Sarah Pacheco, Councilmember Carolyn Humphrey,
Present.
Councilmember Christine Wolf.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. We'll start tonight with the invocation led by Pastor Chuck Carlson from the Sierra Vista Community Church and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Benning. Please rise.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the sunrise and the sunsets that you give us. You paint them across the sky. We thank you for the smallest to the largest cloud that floats in the sky, and we thank you for the smallest rock and the largest mountain. Lord, it's our pleasure to see all that. We thank you for every human that you have made, great and small. You know all of us, and you know our weaknesses, and yet you love us anyway. And Father, we know that as the council deals with many issues, they're dealing with policies and problems, but they're also dealing with strong-minded, self-centered, fickle people. And so we ask you, Lord, as they weigh all their options, that you would give them your wisdom, strength, and ability to make the right decisions for all that are involved. So, Father, we commit them and their decisions this evening to you now. In your holy name, amen.
Please join me in pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you please be seated? Thank you, Pastor Carlson. We appreciate you being here tonight, and thank you, Mr. Benning. First item is the acceptance of the agenda. Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the agenda for the regular City Council meeting of February 27, 2020 be approved as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additions, corrections, questions about the agenda discussion? I'll call for the question. Just before we call for the question, I'll note that Councilwoman Pacheco is here. So now I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. That's getting here under the wire. Okay, next we'll go to the city manager's report. Mr. Tuchik.
Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of the council. Your next regularly scheduled work session is scheduled for March 10th at 3 p.m. Include our normal update work session and then discussion on the recently completed development fee study. So we'll go over the results of that and some history behind development fees for Vista. And I envision that this will be a process be the first meeting with regards to development fees, and I imagine there'll be at least a couple more work discussion before council would be ready to vote on that. So that's the next work session. Number of projects, the City Hall remodel is currently and closes on March 27th. The Nancy Brewer Center Improvement and Expansion Project is currently under advertisement and actually closed today. We'll get to the results of those as soon as we have those numbers. And then the community development block grant projects for the First Street alleyway and Fifth Street have been tentatively awarded to the firm of K&G, so that project will be beginning shortly. And coming up will be the Big O driveway construction. As you're aware, that's part of the Big O annexation. That will occur after that construction is finished, and then the Sierra Vista Airport sign will also be pipeline as well. This morning, Assistant City Manager Victoria Yarborough and I went to Melody Lane and had a meeting with fellow city managers and the county administrator. At the county, as you know, we have a number of different cooperative agreements we work with Cochise County. And the three we discussed today was the rate review board, which I chair on behalf of the county, and that board makes recommendations with regards to tipping fees to the Board of Supervisors. I'm pleased to report that there will be no recommendations for increases in tipping fees this year or for the foreseeable future. So that was really good news, and the county solid staff is doing a very good job. The next item was the Cochise County Tourism and Economic Council. You'll recall a few months ago you approved a new agreement on tourism and economic development with Cochise County, and this was our first meeting to discuss that, and very pleased with the presentation and the advertising and marketing materials that are coming out from that group. So we're getting ready. I think within the next few months we'll be able to have a work session and present some of the findings and metrics and some of the materials that we're working on with our partners in Cochise County, and we're pleased with the results of that, and I think we will be too. So we'll get that on a future work session for your review and discussion. And then finally, the Consolidated Court Agreement. As you recall, we entered into a one-year agreement with Cochise County last year, and Judge Conlog, as the presiding judge of the Superior Court, has put forward a proposal for a new court agreement, which essentially would automatically name per state law the elected JP5 then to be the city magistrate. So that under that proposal, the city council would no longer need to actually appoint a magistrate, and this is allowed under Arizona revised statutes. The other provisions for having an attorney be the pro tem and consulting with the council would still remain in place, but it did not address costs. So but we were assured by the county administrator that they have numbers for us, and that we'll be sending staff to work with him to bring these numbers to the council as part of this new agreement that we'll need to address for the start of the next fiscal year. So busy week, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchik. Any questions for Mr. Patuchik on his report?
So, will we be seeing that new court agreement that's going to come back to council, or how does that?
Absolutely, you will, and I'm sure we'll have a work session.
So we will discuss that in greater detail once it's.
Absolutely.
Any agreement with the county has got to be approved by the council.
Okay.
The one change with the after the election automatically being appointed to the magistrate, is that with an appointment also? Because I know we went through with make sure we changed the letter of the law to the IGA.
Yeah, Mayor Mueller, Benning, there are probably some ordinance changes that the council would address with regards to how our current ordinance reads with regards to the magistrate. The issue which we identified last year and and it basically had included in the agreement that last year were the side agreements that the various communities have with their magistrates, and Judge Collins does not feel that is appropriate and feels that this is a way that that issue can be addressed.
But I think that really doesn't hit your question, does it? Any question?
So when we had the issue of current Judge Pat Hall being nominated, one of the things we did as a council was to vote for that IGA, that we would have input on the selection if that ever happened again.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, that would still be in
Okay.
the new proposed agreement.
Okay, thank you,
So
Chuck.
I'm sorry that.
Okay, you just need to clarify. You said that, Chuck, but you need to clarify. Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now move on to Mrs. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the consent agenda consisting of the special meeting minutes and the regular meeting minutes of February 13th, 2020 be approved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Yeah, so we have one abstention. Okay, so seeing no further discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? So that's 6 and 1 abstention. We now move on to new business. Ms. Pacheco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that ordinance 2020-002, adoption of Development Code amendments to Section 151.22.006, maintenance of use provisions by zoning district be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Pregler, will you honor us with a staff report, please?
I am honored. Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. The code amendments to Section 151.22.006 will revise the use permissions for both charter schools and private schools of general education. Now, currently, the code allows charter schools to be permitted in every zoning district, while private schools of general education are only allowed through a conditional use permit in the commercial and urban ranch zoning districts. So to be consistent with state law, amendments are proposing to also allow private schools of general education to locate by right within any zoning districts. In addition, there will be a caveat that will prohibit charter schools and private schools of general education to locate on property zoned single-family residential that is less than an acre in size. Now, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval at their November 19th, 2019 meeting. The City Council opened this up, the amendments, to a 30-day public comment period on January 23rd, 2020. The city has not received any public comments since this date. So this does conclude staff's report.
You said no, and that included any schools in the area? That's correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Questions?
I think we
Discussion?
had the discussion.
Had the discussion earlier.
Yeah.
And so we'll now, when we vote positive for this, we'll basically be in accordance with state law is what you're telling us.
That is correct.
Well, we won't be in variance with state law, put it that way. Or out of variance. We'll be in, well, I'm getting all confused. Okay, I'll stop talking and call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now go to item number 4, Ms. Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2020-012, acceptance of Arizona Department of Homeland Security grant funding for Operation Stone Garden Grant Program be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. It says here that we're going to have Chief Thrasher talk to us, but I think we're going to have the Deputy Chief talk to us. So if you please, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The Operation Stone Garden program supports enhanced cooperation and coordination among customs and in the United States Border Patrol and the federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial law enforcement agencies. State and local agencies that participate in Operation Stone Garden enforce state law and coordinate enforcement efforts with federal partners in order to provide overlapping layers of public safety for the communities they serve. Operation Stone Garden deployments enhance Sheriff's Police Department's proactive enforcement of state drug trafficking and traffic statutes in Sierra Vista and the immediate surrounding areas. With your approval, the city will receive grant funding in the amount of $60,794 for overtime and employee-related expenses, and $9,046 for mileage from the Arizona Department of Homeland Security under the Operation Stone Garden program. There are no matching funds required, and the reimbursement covers overtime, employee-related expenses to include PSPRS, workers' compensation insurance, Social Security, and Medicare, as well as mileage expenses.
Thank you, Chief. This is not a public hearing item, but we do have one member of the public who would like to address us under the call of public rules. Mr. DiCarlo.
Mayor, members of the council, folks, citizens of Sierra Vista, staff. This isn't a hill I want to die upon, okay? When I initially heard this, I was puzzled and I was, why are we extending the enforcement powers of our force into the county? The folks live in the county for a reason. They live in the county because they have a social that they constructed amongst themselves, which is not within our jurisdiction. That's why they live there. They choose to live there. But we want to, and this, I see this as an effort of creating a perception of a new requirement that we'll have to fund it. So I took my, and I did find the Arizona Constitution. I want to thank you guys. When you enter it in the card catalog, it comes up U.S. Constitution, and it's hidden somewhere back there behind Can't Mine and Bisbee anymore, Drink the Water in Tombstone in the western section. But the Article 29, which applies to the public retirement system, so the PSPRS, Section 1 reads, public retirement systems shall be funded with contributions and investment earnings using actuarial methods and assumptions that are consistent with general accepted actuarial standards. The assets of public retirement systems, including vested earnings and contributions, are separate and independent trusts and shall be invested, administered, and distributed as determined by law solely in the interest of the members and the beneficiaries of the public retirement systems. C reads, membership in a public retirement system is a contractual relationship that is subject to Article 2, Section 25, and public retirement system benefits shall not be diminished. That was added in 1988, that last section. So if we go to Section 25, and we read, bills of attainder, ex post facto laws, impairment of contractual obligations, Section 25. No bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligations of a contract shall be enacted. An ex post facto law is something that's made up after the fact and enforced. We changed the rules of the game, and now you got to play this way. Okay. Now, as Assistant Chief, I told you earlier, I'm not sharpshooting anybody, right? The Sierra Vista Police Department have an armed vehicle that could be misconstrued as a military vehicle.
Mr. DiCarlo, under the rules of the
outstanding.
Call to the public,
no worries.
We can't
Fair
respond
enough.
to you.
Fair enough. Article 5, the governor is commander-in-chief of the military forces. Section 3, the governor shall be commander of the military forces of the state, except when such forces shall be called into the service of the United States. What we have here, this grant, is more or less funding something just short of an officer, just short of a state trooper. Okay? That the state trooper or the Department of Public Safety is in the governor's army, that and the National Guard. But what the governor's trying to do is do this, and it's not the governor. Arizona Department of Homeland Security, which is funded by the United States Homeland Security, which is, in my eyes, in my opinion, turning into the Gestapo. The governor's office is circumventing the will of the people by providing this grant. The will of the people for how the law is adjudicated and judged in this county, Cochise County, is done by a duly elected sheriff. What we have is good guys in big machines with the ability to go out into the county areas which are not in our jurisdiction, changing the social contract and dragging them to law with the judge who's anointed the Declaration of Independence, folks used to get drug away by folks from far away to courts in lands far away. That's really, connect those dots and understand that this isn't us and them. Really instituting this and approving this, the conflict is between the city and the police, because there's no prisons in Arizona, right? Except for matters of fraud. And there's no way we can be able to collect the debt back from these guys, and I don't want to. This is just one of those times where if you won't suffer good order, we'll be force-fed the sandwich of society waste. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. You bet.
Okay. Question for the deputy chief.
So,
Any further
I had a
discussion?
question.
Yeah.
Is this an ongoing grant? Is this an annual, or can you explain that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Pacheco, it was an annual thing. We have to apply for it each successive year.
How many, is this the first year? How many years?
No, we've been participating in this for years. I can't tell you exactly how many, but this is something we've been doing for some time.
Oh, okay.
Probably at least 15 years.
Oh, really? And then just one last question, like, does the overtime that they fund, does it have to be used in a general, or is it specific to, what's it specific to, I guess?
It's specific to deployments in support of Operation Stone Garden. So those are scheduled. They're
Scheduled deployment.
they're scheduled deployments throughout the year. Yes.
Oh.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Anything else? Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to number 5. Ms. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2020-013, an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Huachuca City for the intercity.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Pulsar, may we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, as you are aware, Huachuca City ended their public transit service about a year ago due to funding limitations. There is now interest in restarting the service due to the receipt of a grant from the Legacy Foundation. However, one of the key considerations is establishing a service which is potentially eligible for Federal Transit Administration funding. Eligible providers cannot establish service which is redundant with another. So Huachuca City has approached Sierra Vista with an agreement which would allow them to connect with Vista Transit at a few key stops. Riders from Huachuca City who want to get to other stops in Sierra Vista would then transfer to Vista Transit to reach their final destination. The agreement before you tonight is similar to existing agreements he already has with the Cochise Connection and Greyhound. Those agreements help public transportation riders into the city and make use of infrastructure and staff which is already in place. There was a question at the session on Tuesday in regards to what the Huachuca City Transit would look like. I did confirm it would run per week with 2 round trips per day.
Thank you, Mrs. Pulsar. Any further questions or discussion? Yeah. You said no? No.
I
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
comment. I'm, just my, this is a needed improvement for the town of Huachuca City, and happy to see this, that they were able to get the grant from the Legacy Foundation to get them transportation back up again. There's a number of folks in Huachuca City with no means of transportation, so it's a big concern there. So.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Besides the transit center, what's the other routes?
The other stop and the service, Canyon Medical Center. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And Sarah, I think this is good to see Huachuca City back up on getting their transit system back.
And it's good to have them participated in the greater community too. So
I said no, but that stimulated a question. Now, no laughing. should someone want to go from Sierra Vista to Huachuca City, is that possible? Is there a two times a day that you could do that?
Councilmember Calhoun, yes, that would be possible to get on the Huachuca City bus for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah, to go wherever they're going. Okay, thank you.
And the people from Huachuca City hopefully are going back to stay there, but we of course would welcome them to stay here, stay here at a hotel if they wanted to do that as well, okay? I won't tease you too bad, okay? Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mrs. Flassar. We now move on to item number 6, Mr. Benning.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Resolution 2020-014, amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the Sierra Vista Unified School District be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Wilson, may we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Ms. This is a very small amendment to our IGA with the Sierra Vista Unified School District for joint facility use. This would take the gymnasium out, the sentence that refers to that, out of the section of the agreement that allows us to utilize at no cost, and we'll move it to the section that will allow us to operate it through our sports division. So go from utilizing the facility and sharing 20% of our net profits with the school district into operating, maintaining, and improving those, and in return we would revenue. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Any questions from Mrs. Wilson? Any further discussion on the council?
Sorry. Are we doing repairs in that gymnasium to use it, or I was understanding that it was in a shape that it needed a lot of maintenance or a lot of upkeep? Is that part of that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Member. Councilmember Pacheco. Yes, I'm hoping that that we will receive to do the needed repairs. As you know, the rest of the property is also in need of repairs. We're working on a water project to water the fields now, and the gymnasium does definitely need some work. Yes.
And that should be part of upcoming budget discussions. Okay. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, any other further questions or discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 7. Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2020-015, establishing a West End Entertainment District, be approved.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Boone.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this resolution with your entertainment district within the West End, utilizing the authority of Arizona Revised Statute 4-207. In short, this is about local control to make decisions within the district concerning several different types of liquor license. First, I do want to thank Matt and his team because they've done significant work on this. And as we focused on the West End for some time, this resolution complements the other efforts such as the West End Partnership and ongoing redesign of Front Garden. This resolution supports the plan to increase vibrancy and a focus on people with a mix of hotels, restaurants, bars, and other entertainment establishments. A key limiting factor is the 300-foot rule, again based on 4-207, prohibiting the issuance of a retail liquor...
Arizona Revised Statute?
Arizona Revised Statute, correct. Prohibiting the issuance of a retail liquor license within 300 feet of a church or school. The graphic included on the screen identifies several small churches across the West End with the 300 feet identified in red. A significant portion of Fry, Garden, and Wilcox would remain effectively prohibited by the current liquor board rules. There's several licenses that are impacted from Series 6 bar, 7 wine and bar, 8 conveyance, 9 liquor store, 10 beer and wine, 14 private club, and 16 wine and beer festival. With the approval of the resolution, you, the council, would have the authority to approve an application for those licenses within 300 feet of a school or church. Note, this gives you the authority brought forward for your approval.
Again, this supports local control for decisions to be made by you on a case-by-case basis in the future. The district provides options for the development of businesses on the west end, which would include vacant buildings in areas that have been hard to redevelop. New business ventures such as grocery stores, wine bars, and vendors are now possible or will be based on passing of the resolution on a case-by-case exemption process that only the City Council can approve, whereas the state cannot. The next graphic kind of identifies, let's see, where'd it go? It's right here. This next graphic identifies the proposed entertainment district, which includes Garden Avenue, Fry Boulevard, and Wilcox up to 7th Street. The intent was to capture the majority of the commercially zoned areas within the West End for future growth. Note this is an updated graphic from the read-ahead, as we've removed 2 parcels which are included as a county enclave. One we've carved off of Fry Boulevard, right here, and then the other one we've included kind of blacked out. Effectively, we don't have jurisdiction to include that in the entertainment district. Now, many other cities in Arizona have designated entertainment districts such as the city of Phoenix, Tucson, Prescott, Prescott Valley, and Scottsdale. This resolution was brought forward to the West End Commission for their consideration, and it was fully supported to move forward. Finally, there's no fiscal impact based on this resolution, and we have no projects in the pipeline that would be impacted by approval or disapproval of this initiative. Really, we got to think about this as local control to make decisions in the future. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I will take some questions.
First question is, have you heard from any of the affected area?
We have not.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, discussion?
Want to clarify
Okay.
a couple of things. Tony, so I just want to clarify for public benefit that although we have local control to approve within this district, they would still have to go through the process of applying for a liquor license.
Correct.
The whole vetting process.
Right.
Love that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, great, correct. Effectively, they would come back, ask for the variance, and it would be up to you to approve or disapprove into the future. You have the freedom to approve or disapprove. I mean, it really comes back to local decisions.
Okay. I just thank you for that clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Would churches have the ability to appeal any ruling that we made about that?
What we talk about is a first of all, there would be a public hearing process, just like it is when we do the liquor licenses, and that would be advertised. And we need to make sure that in our rules we notify those churches that are affected in that area so they can appear, and that way they should be notified. And that way, if there's a specific objection, they have a chance to air that before we make our decision, rather than waiting until after we vote and then have to appeal the decision. Okay,
Correct,
so we
Mr.
need to
Mayor.
make provisions to do that.
So it would invoke the notification process like
Yes.
we do with
Well,
the
we'd have to have
adjacent properties
we'd have to
and
have a notification
affected properties.
process for those affected churches, so they're aware.
And potentially schools, Mr.
Excuse me, yeah.
Do we have schools in that?
We don't now, but again, I was just predicting into the future.
Okay, sir.
Is there a waiver process people go through now with the state in order to get the license? So right now, the 300 rule in effect unless we change that right now.
Correct.
Anybody else?
I would just, if I could, Mr. Mayor, reiterate, I think Carolyn or Councilmember Humphrey, who said at the West End Commission that they approved of this. They were in support full-heartedly, and the commission is made up of a number of West End churches, well, not just churches, but there's a number of representatives from churches on that, and they were fully in support. So, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and it was unanimous. They actually raised any concerns that I remember.
Okay. Just
Okay.
wanted to reiterate. Thank you.
Tony? I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now go on to call the public. We have one gentleman that would like to address us tonight on refuse. Mr. DiCarlo.
Member of Council, staff, citizens, Sarah Vista, good to see you again. Thanks. I don't want to take up all your, I know that I probably sound brown teacher sometimes. At least feel. In regards to what we're, refuge system, right? We just passed it, and we'd have to do it again in 2 more years, okay? That's just, hey, this is going to most likely happen. And along with the reformations that we're trying to accomplish in government. Our finance minister not being able to account hours among folks that work there. He claimed minutes while attorneys billing 6 increments. Can't account for the amount of hours that are involved in the refuge system. We have a government that is unaccountable handling the refuse. I respect the reformation that you're attempting to do. However, I do be more appropriate for a referendum for the residents. Changing the pattern, our representative pattern, by 28%. 2 out of 7 is 28%. So we're eliminating 28% of interaction of the people with staff and with you. Absolutely no guarantee that government itself will be reduced by 28%. That's a long shot. Closer would be appropriate. Eliminating 28% of the interaction. We have a government that's there to the voice of the people. We have a government that represents those that govern. There's 2 separate things. I mean, to be honest, it's really irritating. A lot of these things are being put out in front of you, and we're being forced to interact with this, and the same trash rate we do. That seems like maybe an interest for chaos to be created in order to provide a reason for order to be placed. And as a submariner who, and I'm not bragging or nothing like that, I did things what I was supposed to do. But before I deployed in a submarine, I actually deployed in a ship to the Persian Gulf War. I was a police officer. I carried 45 for 24 hours every 3 days for over 90 days. So I'm a little wound up a little tight ever since then. That's where I saw the 2 different tiered justice systems. When you have an enlisted lady having intercourse with a commissioned officer, the commissioned officer gets a piece of paper, is forced to retire. The non-commissioned lady, the junior lady, she gets 60 days extra duty. Those 60 days extra duty were spent in the time of a hold with popped aspartame pop. And if we've come around to, I mean, this is in the 90s. Aspartame now is a known poison. The moral of this, I'm trying to put forward, is that I'm not here to sharpshoot anybody, and I don't know everything. But there are some things and some rocks we could turn over that we could do a little digging. And if we do a little digging and we account for man hours, we'll make government accountable. It's easier for all of us to stomach it a little bit, all right? Because our most young person here is 18 years old for by what, $11 an hour? Because that's what they're making a minimum wage. Those things are taken into account because that's money. That money's going to be taxed, and every time it changes hands, 7% gets taken away, right? The enemy is here. I want you all to eat. I do. But we're taught to turn to Caesar's what is Caesar. I'm of the growing opinion, and there are others like me, that it is time for Caesar to eat a salad and not demand that we toss it for them. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. We'll now move on to comments and requests to council. Tonight we'll start with Mr. Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Pastor Carlson for blessing us tonight, and everyone else in the audience who came out and spent the night with us. Thanks, Mr. DiCarlo always brings some educational entertainment to the council. Other than that, I just want to say I look forward to and make sure the public knows March doing another open house for Fry Boulevard at Sierra Suites from 1 to 3 and 5 to 7, if the time's right. more people. We had a great showing last time. Hope we have even more of a showing this time. I'll be there both times. So I look forward to talking to you and hearing your opinions. And that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benning. Mrs. Calhoun.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pacheco.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pacheco. Mrs. Humphrey.
Nothing tonight.
How's my favorite young lady doing? She getting well?
Oh, yeah, that's probably where
Lovey's
my head's
okay?
at. She's doing much better, and
Okay.
she got the green light. She'll be going back to school tomorrow.
Excellent.
We're all very excited.
Yeah, you're all very excited.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Ms. Humphrey. And Ms. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, we were able to tour the Nancy J. Brewer Animal Shelter today with my Rotary, and I want to thank Ms. Arlene for taking the time out of her day to do that. And it is really a fantastic facility that we have here in the city. And I just wanted everybody to know that currently this week they are doing Marty Paws. So there are some adoption incentives. So please feel free to go down and help out a kitty or a puppy. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great you took your club there. We always have a place to find a new friend and bring them home. So
I was under very strict orders.
Okay. We'll move on. Madam Mayor Pro Tem Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will reiterate what Council Member Wolf said, as I think our shelter does it better than any other I've ever seen, and to work with the resources they have is pretty incredible, and they do have some awesome animals. And I'd also just like to say to Lisa and to pass along to the rest of the chamber staff, yesterday, which seems about 3 weeks ago already, the governor came in and did a state of the state, and the chamber staff had it organized very well. And if you guys were all panicking in the back, you pulled it off fantastically. And his message, I felt, was very positive overall for Cochise County and rural area. So I was encouraged by a lot of the things he said. And everyone have a great rest of your week and weekend.
And I just want to add to that. I knew when I got a call from the governor's office that the chamber was a great community partner to be able to execute a visit from the governor, and also had great support from Cochise College. So it's great to have community partners that we can depend on. And with that, I see nothing else on the agenda. Meeting is adjourned.
What do you mean? Why's that face about kitties?
Set up yesterday after sitting. I did.